Incineration,
Vamos a iniciar con este
a
webinar que
false solution
titulamos
to the waste
Incineración, una
problem.
falsa solución a
We're
la
going to start with
problemática de
this
la
webinar
basura
on
en la región de
incineration, a false
Latinoamérica y el
solution to
Caribe.
the waste
Mi
problem in
nombre
Latin
es
America and
Jimena
the
Ayala. Yo
Caribbean. I'm
estaré el día
Jimena
de hoy
Ayala,
gestionando
and
este webinar.
today I'll
Y para
be
empezar,
moderating
les
this
voy a
webinar.
dar una pequeña
And to get
introducción
started, I'll
acerca
make a
de qué es la
brief
incineración.
introduction on
Espero
what
que esta
incineration is
introducción
all
sirva
about.
para que todas y todos
Hopefully,
aquellos
this
que a lo
introduction
mejor no
will be
están tan
useful for
familiarizados con
all
algunas de
those who are
estas
not so
terminologías, pues
familiar
puedan hacerlo
with
y se
our
entiendan mejor las
terminology,
siguientes
can
presentaciones.
then better understand the
Creo que es
following
importante comenzar
presentations. I think it's
mencionando el
important to
manejo de
start
residuos,
by
que a nivel mundial
mentioning
se
waste
generan residuos
management
sólidos municipales que
at the
se
world
espera que crezcan
world
a lo
level.
largo de los años.
Municipal
Se estima que en
solid
el
waste is
2023 se
generated,
producirán
and this will
2.300
increase
millones
over
de
time.
toneladas y para el
In
2050 serán
2023, we produced
3.800 millones de
2.3
toneladas.
billion tons, and by
Y algo
2050,
importante
it
es
will
que
be
nos hemos
3.8
alejado de los
billion.
ciclos naturales
And
de
something
descomposición
important
de la
is that we've
basura
moved
y
away
nos
from the
hemos ido
natural
acercando a
cycles
flujos de
of
productos
waste
químicos y
decomposition,
materiales
and we've
sintéticos que no
come
se degradan.
closer to
Entonces, bajo
those
esta premisa, pues
flows
bueno,
of
la mayoría de
waste
nuestra
called
basura
chemical
se tira en
problems and
vertederos o basureros,
products
donde
and
los residuos se
synthetic
acumulan.
materials.
Y el
Most of
incinerador
these are
sale como
dumped
esta solución ideal, ¿no?
in
Para los problemas
waste
de
dumps or
residuos,
in
que además
landfills
en
where
algunas
waste
ocasiones se gestiona
accumulates.
como extra contra
Incinerators
energía
are
y como que
promoted
podría
as
formar
an
parte de la
ideal
economía
solution to
circular.
these
Y pues
waste
vamos a hablar por
problems,
qué esto pues no
generating
es
also
así.
energy.
La
But
incineración de
this is not
residuos
so.
es un proceso de
Waste
oxidación térmica a alta
incineration is a
temperatura
process of
a través de
thermal
la cual
oxidation
se
at
logra
high
la
temperatures
combustión de
through which
materiales de desecho.
we
El
can
objetivo
burn
principal
waste
es reducir el
material. The
volumen de
main
estos desechos
objective is
y a
to
la vez se
reduce
concentran
the
los
volume
componentes peligrosos que
of
contiene.
waste,
Esto quiere decir que
but
se reduce
at the
el
same
volumen,
time,
pero se
the
aumenta la
hazardous
toxicidad de estos.
components
Entonces, a
concentrate
través
even
del calor
further,
que se
reducing
genera,
volume
estos
but increasing
componentes orgánicos de
toxicity.
los desechos van a
Through the
reaccionar con el
heat,
oxígeno
these organic
del aire y se van a
components
transformar
of waste
principalmente
will
en dióxido de
react with
carbono y
oxygen
agua,
in the
pero
air and turn
también se
into
producen
carbon
emisiones
dioxide and
altamente
water, but they are
tóxicas al
also
aire y se liberan
highly
nanopartículas
toxic
que son
emissions going
tóxicas,
into the
incluyendo
air,
metales
and
pesados, que
toxic
son tóxicos,
nanoparticles are
dioxinas,
released,
furanos
including
y otras
heavy
sustancias que pueden causar daño
metals
al ambiente y a nuestra
that are
salud también.
toxic, and also dioxins and
Ahora, algo importante es esta parte que
furans.
mencionaba al inicio, que a veces se
Very
vende la
important is what I
incineración
mentioned at the
como que se
beginning,
puede
that
transformar en
incineration
energía,
is
¿no? Que es esta
sold
energía potencial que
as
dan los
something
residuos.
that can
Estas
turn
instalaciones se
into
llaman
energy.
instalaciones
These
o plantas de
installations are
conversión de residuos en
called
energía o
waste to
waste to energy en
energy
inglés.
plants.
Y algo importante aquí es que
And
no hay
something
diferencia
important
entre el
here is that
impacto
there's
que
no
estas
difference
generan
as
con
to
sus
the
emisiones,
impact
si en
they
realidad no hay
generate
diferencia
through their
entre los
emissions. So
incineradores de
there's no
residuos
difference
y estos
between waste
WTEs.
incinerators and these
Otros términos que
WTEs.
también se manejan mucho
Other
en esta área de la
terms that are
incineración
very
es la
common for
coincineración y el
incineration
coprocesamiento.
is
El coprocesamiento
co-processing and
son plantas que queman
co-incineration.
residuos junto con
Co-processing are
otros
those plants
combustibles,
that
como por
burn
ejemplo
waste
las plantas de
together with other
cemento o cal,
fuels, such
que para
as the
producirse se
cement or
requieren
lime
altas
plants.
temperaturas, entonces se
To
utilizan los
produce them, you
residuos para
require high
generar
temperatures,
estas
and waste
temperaturas.
is
Y
used
la
to generate
coincineración, que
these
son los
high
residuos que se
temperatures.
pueden
And
coincinerar con
co-incineration are
otros,
those
como por
wastes
ejemplo en
that can be
centrales
co-incinerated with
alimentadas con
others,
carbón
such
o fábricas de
as
celulosa y
in
papel.
coal fuel
Otros
electricity
términos
plants or in
importantes que a veces
cellulose or
también van de
paper
la mano
plants.
de la
Other
incineración
important
son
terminology that goes
tecnologías que
hand in
son,
hand
se
with
mencionan como
incineration
alternativas del
are these
tratamiento
so-called
térmico de desechos,
alternative
que cabe
technologies
mencionar
for
que
the
tratamiento
thermal
térmico también
treatment
es
of
incineración,
waste.
y
Thermal
estas
treatment is
operan
also
bajo un
incineration,
ambiente
by the
reducido de
way,
oxígeno.
and they
Estos son,
operate
por
in an
ejemplo, la
environment of very
combustión
little
carbonizante
oxygen or
y su
no
oxidación.
oxygen.
Y la gasificación y la
Combustion is
pirólisis es
oxidation.
presencia
Gasification
de
and
menos oxígeno y
pyrolysis
la pirólisis de muy
requires the
bajas
presence of
concentraciones de
less
oxígeno.
oxygen, and in
Otro,
pyrolysis,
por
very
último,
little
tenemos el arco de
oxygen. And
plasma.
then we have the
Este se genera a muy altas
plasma arc,
temperaturas
that
a
generates
través de
very high
dióxido de plasma, este
temperatures
arco,
through
y se aplica a
plasma
residuos con mínima
torches in this arc,
necesidad
and they
de
apply to
pretratamiento, por
waste
lo que
that
es muy
don't
común
need
para
much
plásticos de un solo
pre-treatment.
uso.
This is very
Ahora, todas
common
estas que
for
mencioné
single-use
anteriormente, incluido
plastics.
el arco
All
de
this
plasma
that I
también,
mentioned
es
before
incineración y también liberan los mismos
entails
tóxicos que las
incineration, and
partículas que
they
todas las anteriores.
emit the same
Y otro que también a
toxical
veces está
products and
disfrazado además con la
nanoparticles.
palabra
Something else
reciclaje, que
that
eso para
is
muchos suena
uh,
porque es una opción más
somehow
ecológica,
concealed
es
is
el reciclaje químico o
this
reciclaje de
chemical
plásticos o reciclaje
recycling or
avanzado.
plastic
Porque
recycling
el
or
plástico se
advanced
puede someter
recycling,
a
because
gasificación y
plastic
pirólisis
can
y
be
bajo
subjected to
esta combustión
gasification and
se genera un
pyrolysis,
combustible de baja calidad o
and this gives
contaminado.
rise to
Y además,
low
los
quality or
plásticos, en
polluted
su
fuel, and the
transformarse, se pueden
plastics
someter a
can
solventes.
also
Y esto
be
quita impurezas en los plásticos que
subjected
los
to
convierten polímeros,
solvents,
los polímeros en monómeros.
removing
Y estos son otros
impurities,
nombres
turning
bajo
them,
los cuales
the
también se enmascara,
polymers,
¿no?,
into
esta parte.
monomers.
Entonces, la
And these
pregunta
are
que
the
se
names we
planteaba al
give them
inicio,
in
¿no?
Spanish
¿Esto
here.
podría ser economía circular?
And
Pues
can this
estos
be considered
procesos de
circular
incineración, que se ven
economy? These
enmascarados bajo
incineration
este nombre,
processes that are
en realidad son todo
concealed
lo
under this
contrario, ¿no?
name
Más del
are not
90% de
that.
los
They're
materiales
all
que
the
se desechan en
contrary.
los
More than
incineradores
90%
podrían ser
of the
reusados,
material discarded in
reciclados o
incinerators could
compostados.
be reused,
Y el quemar estos
recycled, or
materiales para
used for
obtener, por ejemplo,
composting.
energía,
Burning
reduce
this
los
material to
esfuerzos para
obtain energy
conservarla y también
reduces the
disminuye
efforts
los
for
esfuerzos para
preserving
reducir
energy
empaques y
and
desechos
diminishes
y
the efforts to reduce
desincentiviza
packaging
el
and waste,
reciclaje y el
and it
compostaje. Entonces,
disincentivizes
todos estos
recycling
procesos
and
también es importante
composting.
volverlo a
All
mencionar,
these
liberan gases de
processes,
efecto
it's important
invernadero y
to mention
sustancias
this
químicas que
again,
son peligrosas
release
para la salud humana y el ambiente.
greenhouse gases and chemical
Espero que
substances that are
esta introducción
dangerous for
les
human
haya
and
parecido
environmental
interesante
health. I hope you
y que les
found this
ayude a entender
introduction
nuestras
interesting
siguientes
and that it
presentaciones.
helps you
Para
understand
mí
the
es un gusto
presentations that will
presentarles
follow. For
al
me,
doctor
it's
Abel
an
Arkenbaut.
honor
Él
to
estudió
introduce
biología y
Dr. Archambault.
toxicología
He
en la
studied
Universidad de
biology and
Utrecht en Holanda.
toxicology at the University of Utrecht,
También ha
Utrecht
trabajado en
in
audio y video en
the
producciones en
Netherlands,
Zebra.
and with
Ha
Hebrew
desarrollado programas de
audio and video
enfermedades
productions. He has
transmisibles para el
developed
Ministerio de Salud.
communicable disease
Es CEO
programs
y
for the
fundador
Ministry of
de la
Health. He's CEO
organización
and
de
founder
beneficio público
of
Fundación
the
Toxic Watch. También es
organization
investigador en
Toxic Watch,
compuestos
a
orgánicos
not-for-profit. He is
persistentes
also a
relacionados
researcher in
con las
persistent
emisiones al
organic
ambiente
components
por parte de
related to
los
environmental
incineradores.
emissions
Ha realizado
from
estudios de
incinerators and
monitoreo de
has
compuestos
conducted
orgánicos persistentes a lo largo de
persistent
varios
organic
años cerca de los
pollutants
incineradores.
monitoring studies
Ha
near
participado como
incinerators over
investigador
several years. He has
independiente en grupos de
participated as an
trabajo con
independent
gobiernos e
researcher
industria
in working
sobre
groups
datos
with
de
governments
emisiones de
and
los
the industrial
incineradores de
sector on waste
residuos.
incinerator
También es
emission data.
fundador de la
He is
consultora
also the
Toxic
founder
Watch,
of the
donde es jefe de
consulting firm
investigación en
Toxic
el
Watch,
área de
where he
análisis de emisiones
leads
de
research in
compuestos
the area
orgánicos
of analysis
persistentes
of
y
persistent
residuos
organic
relacionados con la incineración de
compounds,
desechos, así
emissions
como con
and
un
waste
enfoque de
incineration
análisis
related waste,
microbiológico y radiación
focusing on
potencial de las
microbiological
sustancias de
analysis and
muy
the
alta
potential
concentración.
radiation of substances of
Él
very
nos
high
acompaña el día de
concern.
hoy con Kristen Bowman, quien es su
He's
compañera de
here today
investigación.
with Kristen
Ella ha
Bowman,
trabajado en
his
marketing en
research partner.
diferentes
She has
áreas y se ha
worked in
dedicado a la
marketing in various
dendrología,
fields and
teniendo
has
educación como
devoted
guía
her
de
time
Royal
to
Dutch National
dendrology,
History
having trained as a
Society en
guide
el área natural y
for
de
the Royal
biología,
Dutch
dando
National History
múltiples
Society in the
clases y
field of natural
presentaciones en
biology,
esta área.
and has
Es
taught
profesora
numerous
adjunta en
classes and made
biodiversidad en la
presentations in
Facultad
this
de
area.
Ciencias
She
y
is an
Biología de la
adjunct
Universidad de
professor of
Leiden en Alemania.
biodiversity at the
También es
School of
profesora
Sciences and
investigadora en el área
Biology
de
at Leiden
toxicología y es
University in
miembro
the Netherlands. She is
investigadora de la
also
Fundación
professor and
Toxic Watch.
research in the field of
También es CEO y
toxicology. She is also a
fundadora
member of
de
research of
la
the Toxic Watch
consultora Toxic
Foundation
Watch.
and is
El
also
doctor
a
Abel nos
CEO and
va
founder of
a
Toxic
presentar
Watch
sobre emisiones
Consulting.
ocultas y
And,
biomarcadores y
Dr.
Kristen
Abel
Bowman
is
la
going
estará
to
acompañando para
talk
resolver
about
dudas al final de su presentación.
the
Les recuerdo que
biomarkers,
tienen 20
and
minutos y que puedan hablar lento para los
his
interpretadores.
partner
Adelante,
will
Abel. Muchas
talk
gracias.
or answer questions. You can speak slowly, she said, for the interpreter's sake. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much for this introduction. I will go to my SharePoint. Here. Ja, kijken. Doe eens, Thank you very much for this introduction. This first presentation, it goes about hidden emissions of waste incinerators. And it is about hidden because the most emissions are not regulated, are not measured, and even not determined. And this is the starting picture is about a waste incinerator in the middle of Paris, and you see all the flue gases going, the plumes into the city. Waste, the flue gases is cleaned by oh, wait a minute. By air pollution control devices, and here you see a picture of a bag filter. We can tell a lot of the bag filter, but this is a presentation of only 10 minutes, so we go on to the next one. And the next one is the most important air pollution control devices, and that is the heating system. So you can see here the grid where the waste is burned, and then it goes into this column, And the European regulation is that this flue gas will be heated for 2 seconds above the 850 degrees. And we call this column the post-combustion zone. We have done a lot of research on this zone because we were in a technical working group together with the incinerator management and the government. And we could ask them, please, can you do again a measurement of the temperatures? And you see here on the right that when we measure again that the 2 seconds above the 850 degrees was not complying, and were all, we called it cold spots, and cold spots means that there is a possibility to form new compounds and special dioxins. Where is this all about? When you do that heating, the combustion above the 850 degrees, 1100 degrees, it's hypothetical that all the substances will be segregated into atoms. So it falls down in chlor, brome, fluorinated atoms. But everything what is going up has also to go down. So there is a cooling down phase. And just in this cooling down phase between the 850 and the 250 degrees, there will be a frame that new substances will form. And we call this process the novosynthesis. And the novosynthesis mean that in this cooling down, new toxic substances, especially the new formed dioxins, will be formed. And because we were in a working group with the incinerator, we could apply a long-term, and we call it a semi-continuous measurement in the chimney. And we measure in the chimney dioxin like PCBs, polybrominated biphenyls, all kinds of brominated and mixed halogenated dioxins. And all this were detected, but they are not regulated. And you see in the left another example of all kinds of toxic substances that are not regulated. And we are trying to ask the government to measure it with bioassays, because the chemical analyzers are very limited to measure all these compounds. What are you talking about? This substance are persistent organic pollutants, and we call it PBT, and the P stands for persistent, and it means that there are substances that is very hard to destroy. We just say about the 850 degrees, but not all the dioxin will be destroyed at that temperature. And even PFAS, that's the other with the fluorinated compounds, will need very high temperatures, even above the 1000 degrees. The B stands for bioaccumulation, and it means that all the substances are accumulating in the body. And when you are at the top of the food hierarchy, it means that you get a lot of this substance in you. And this substance, dioxin, the PFAS, will stay forever in your body. And it are extreme toxic compounds, and we compare it with just a grain of sand in a beach, and even then, this toxic substance are very toxic. And just to show you from the dioxins, the regulations are on food. We do a lot of biomonitoring on eggs. There's on 29 chlorinated dioxins, but on the flue gases, only dioxins and furanes are regulated. And these are just to show you the different congeners with on this line the different toxicity. So it means that the most toxic compound TCD, standing for tetrachlorinated deoxydioxins, is the most toxic compound compared to other dioxins. And this is only about chlorinated dioxins, so not brominated or fluorine or iodine or mixed halogenated compounds. And just to show you, in the flue gases are a lot of possible known and unknown congeners, and we're only measuring a very small part of it. And that's why we're using in food monitoring, we use bioassays. The measurement of the mandated measurement regulated by European standards is only a sampling of 6-12 hours a year. That means that it's only 0.14 a year. And that's a very extreme grab sampling in time domain. And we are really wondering if that can be representative for all the other time, because scientifically grab sampling is not acceptable. But we have also used a long-term semi-continuous measurement, but even with this method, you must know it's been sampled by a very little probe in a very big chimney, and this probe is only 5 or 6 millimeters, while the chimney is 3.4 meters. So it's only a very tiny something, but the positive thing is that you can measure for a very long time. And to show you what this means, this is our results in measurements of Paris, the Paris incinerator. And you see on here the start time and the end time. And the measurement with a semi-continuous measurement is about 4 weeks. So it means 672 hours. But on the yellow column, you can see how long the measurement was on. And on these two columns, you see when it was off. And in the measurement in the Paris incinerator, a very long time it was off. And so you can see on these columns that when there was an exceeding of the limit of the European standard of 0.1, that there was only a measurement of half of the time. So that is a little bit the technical incompetence of this system. It is all about the OTNOC. The OTNOC stands for other than normal operation conditions. And that means, for example, the back filter, is that on, or is there using a bypass? We have seen with some incinerator that the most important filter is bypass in, for example, startup and shutdowns. The temperatures in the compression zone we showed in the third slide is sometimes it's giving cold spots under the 850 degrees. Or other pollution control devices failures. So there are a lot of parameters that are interrupting the complete combustion of waste. This slide show that our waste is full of toxic chemicals. So it is not a waste of 100 years ago, but now are the waste even on package material or whatever is full of the plastic materials is full of waste. And what the output is, even when it's incinerated, it gives a toxic output, and even more toxic compounds are formed, like mixed halogenated dioxins, PFAS, PAH. So when we come to the summarizing of incinerators, of hidden emissions, waste input is a mixture of all kinds of toxic chemicals. Waste output contains newly formed toxic substances via de novo synthesis. Incomplete combustion forms more toxic substances in emissions and residues. We even not call it, but it's not only into the air, but it is also going into the residues like bottom and fly ash. And the other than normal operation conditions is associated with incomplete combustion conditions. Shutdown and startup are the main contributors of POP emissions, and some incinerators have a very high level of startup shutdowns. In Spain, we have measure more than 20 startup a year, and that is very bad for the environment. Short-time measurements are limited to 6 to 12 hours. Long-term measurements or semi-continuous measurements are limited by technical imperfections. The other than normal operation emissions are very difficult to measure. Therefore, additional biomonitoring research is very needed. It's a limited analysis on all possible toxic POPs. No mixed halogenated dioxins or PFAS or heavy metals. And another big problem, even in the Netherlands, is a lack of knowledge among enforcing organizations. The industry is going harder, and the development of chemicals into all kinds of products is going very hard. And there is a lack of proper biomonitoring with multi-year continuation in the vicinity of waste incinerators. Thank you. Huh? Next. Okay.
Yes, if you want to continue with the next presentation, and in the end we can do the questions.
Okay, yes. The next presentation is about biomonitoring. Biomonitoring of persistent organic pollutants emissions of waste incinerators. And we are concentrating on dioxins, PAH, PFAS, and heavy metals. And this photo is about the waste incinerator in the Netherlands, in Harlingen. And this is a photo, a picture of our research in Spain, in the northern of Spain, in the Basque Country. A very beautiful landscape, and the incinerator is hidden into the mountains.
Abel, sorry to interrupt you, but I think we're looking at the same presentation still. So maybe you need to on show and then show again.
Oh, stop. Just stop sharing and then going on?
Yes, please.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry for the interruption.
Als jij deze doet, is goed. Ja. Otherwise, Kirsten taken this over. Wait a moment. Huh?
Yes, take your time. Yes, now we see the other presentation. Thank you.
This one. This. Ja, dan ga ik even weg.
Nee, daar zitten.
Ja?
Waar is hij?
Ja. Oh yeah.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Thank you for attending our presentation of our work. As Abel mentioned, we are doing biomonitoring for quite some time now. It is all about dioxins, PFAS, pH, and PFAS, and we also do analyze on heavy metals to give an impression what is really the impact of waste incineration in the nearby surrounding environment. As Abel mentioned, this is in Subieta in Spanish Basque Country. We had a unique opportunity to do a zero measurement there in 2019. In 2020, a waste incinerator, it was really cut out in the mountains over here. State-of-the-art new waste incinerator, but we could do measurements before, the year before in 2019, and that was a unique opportunity. Therefore, we could start with zero measurement, and we followed this area. It is mostly agriculture, not so much populated, although there is much industry as well. So we have to deal with confounders, but it was unique that we could start with these zero measurements. We followed this area for 5 years, and last year in 2024 we took a lot of samples in the inner circle. We work mostly, we take samples just as nearby as possible from vegetation or chicken eggs or all kinds of sample water sediments, but we concentrated now in the inner circle. And we also take samples of, this is 1 kilometer or 3 kilometer, and the outer circle is 5 kilometer. And after 5 years, we could see really an exceeding of dioxins and heavy metals and PFAS in all kinds of samples. Okay, just to give you an impression, we are doing this since 2013. Now 12 years, and we started thanks to Zero Waste Europe. Also, we could do biomonitoring also in Europe. Of course, you are on the other side of the globe, but we are welcome very much this interest. As you can see, we take water samples and sediment samples, but also from reference sites, so we could compare it. But so we go with biologists to national parks, to further away from waste incineration plants, to give an idea how much it is polluted nearby a waste incineration. We took all this we use all these biomarkers, as we call it. As you can see, we are focusing much also on evergreen tree leaves, as well on wildlife. We use only deer animals which are dead, and then we get some of the dead material, so we do analysis on the liver or meat. Also on fruit and even grasses. We take some vegetables and soil from vegetable gardens. In Slovakia, we were able to collect some wildlife bird eggs. We use a lot of mosses, bryophytes, not lichens, but yeah, as well, but more bryophytes as well. Mother milk, we did it in Subieta. Also from cow meat, but wool, we have analysis. We started that in 2018. Toxicort started with backyard chicken eggs, but we have seen that there was a lot of focus because the chicken eggs are polluted. Governments are warning them not to eat your home of the backyard chicken eggs. But it's not an egg problem. Our research is about to show what is contaminated in the area, possibly very well by waste incineration. And with the zero measurement, we could see this exceeding elevation of dioxins and PFAS and heavy metals in this surrounding area. So we focus now more on mosses and vegetation. After all, it's not an egg problem. Okay, maybe you would like to say something.
Just to give an example how we are doing our biomonitoring. This is in the middle is an incinerator, and we make a circle of 5 kilometers. And a government and the incinerator, they also do a biomonitoring to ensure the population that everything is okay. So they take about 5 kilometers away one sample of milk of the cow. And we say that is not representative. You need to do more on more location and more nearby. So we do it with eggs of backyard chickens in a circle of 3 kilometers. And there we find red eggs, and red eggs means eggs that are not suitable for consuming. So they are not safe to eat. Yeah, they're not safe to eat, and we find the green eggs. We find in the outside the 5 kilometers. So it showed that what the government was doing with the biomonitoring is not representative for the real emissions of dioxins in the environment. And we had to say that in the Netherlands has a moratorium on increasing waste incinerator capacity. So this incinerator was the last one built in the Netherlands, and it was a state-of-the-art, they say.
So this is where we started with the eggs of backyard chicken, as we mentioned it, because it is excreting itself by eggs, and by eating insects and grass and soil, it is an ideal biomarker to show what is the contamination of an environment like this, where this chicken is foraging. Of course, we have to take into account the chicken eat also some other feed. There are some farmers who give also some commercial feed. You have to look, what is the enclosure, chicken enclosure? Is it painted? What is the roof? Which can be confounded. Therefore, we, besides taking chicken eggs, we also take soil samples, and we also take vegetation samples of that same location. And therefore, and we see in most of the cases that when chicken eggs are elevated levels of dioxins, of PFAS, or heavy metals, we see this also in the vegetation of this same location. And therefore, it is for us important to, it is ook an important sign to discuss. From it is not, it's not a chicken because of the food or whatever it has eaten, but it is indeed this environment.
Just to show you an example of our research, our biomonitoring research, in Belgium we start to measure before the incinerator was built, so we could do zero measurement. And we have here two graphs. The upper is measured with the bioassay, and the under is with the conventional chemical analysis. And you already see in the data that the bioassay is measuring higher levels, and that's all because the bioassay is also measuring brominated dioxins, and brominated substances are also present in the waste. And you see, when we start before the waste incinerator was in production, we have low levels, and then the next year all the levels were going up till 2022 with very high levels of dioxins.
Yes, but it is also good to see, as we mentioned, this was also a very industrialized area. So there are a lot of confounders also from emissions from other industries. Therefore, with the zero measurement, we already have high values of dioxins. But when you see the PCBs here in 2019 with the zero measurement, we're really remarkably lower than in the years follow-up. Okay, this was from in Zubieta in the Basque country. The first slide we show you. This was also a zero measurement in 2019. This is the waste incinerator. Very nearby we took moss samples, bryophytes, and as you can see we measure it for dioxins, and it was very low, it was below the limit of detection. A year later we found higher, much higher values, and in 2021 even higher, in 2022 extremely high. So, and in our reports we are the results you can show a table with only numbers, but we want to give it a visualize how much it is exceeded. Therefore, we use a toxic watch indicative scale. For the mosses, the bryophytes, we use the values for what are the limits for feed. So to compare, how much is it exceeded, and therefore these colors represented this indicative scale.
European regulation.
European, okay.
Okay, maybe this is the measurement of dioxins in a busy city as Paris in French. That's very difficult to find out if there is some effect of emissions. And then we work with the chemical analyze the congener patterns, and you can see, and this was our incinerator, and we follow here one specific combustion related congener, a dioxin congener, and we call it the octa. Octa stands for 8 chlor, so chlorodibenzo paradioxin. And then you see that near the incinerator, we show it you in our first slide, is very high, and when in the other parts of Paris there are much lower levels. So it shows that there is really a relation with combustion.
Sorry, Abel, even terug naar die andere. Gaan we vorige?
Ja, wacht even.
Previous, sorry.
Ja.
Maybe good to add, this was the 29 congeners for eggs, indeed, but as you can see, it's only about 7 dioxins, chlorinated dioxins, and 10 chlorinated furans. And these fingerprints, what becomes by chemical analysis, is as well very interesting, because you see here the hepta and the octa, which is a fingerprint of incomplete combustion. And these graphs are from 6 locations where we took backyard chicken eggs in the nearby the waste incinerator, and you can see all locations have these fingerprints. You call it congeners of the octa, but fingerprints of incomplete combustion. Next, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is are the results in Slovakia. There is a co-incinerator near a cement kiln, and this co-incinerator is using car tires, and in car tires there is the heavy metal zinc very present. And you see this is the place where the co-incinerator is. Also this, and you see very high levels of zinc, and in the nearing reservoir, nature reservoir, we find very low levels.
And that we find also for all the 14 heavy metals we were analyzing. It was really remarkable how the reference location in the national park was all much lower than in the inner circle, in the surrounding where we took moss samples like this.
And this is about the PFAS. PFAS is a substance which is very hard to analyze. The European Food Safety Authority has only 4 regulated, but we using here a bioassay, a PFAS bioassay, and when we do this sampling in the water stream, in the sediment in the water stream in a park, in national park, we find no PFAS, and when we do this cement near the cement kiln, we find very high levels of PFAS.
Yeah.
Next one.
Sorry, Abel and Kristen, can you wrap up in 2 minutes, maybe?
Yeah, we are finishing this last slide. Thank you.
These bioassays are needed for monitoring total toxicity of dioxins, of PAH and PFAS. Backyard chicken eggs and mosses are a sensible tool for environmental pop pollution. The chemical analyzers give fingerprints of the related congeners. The heavy metals are, biomarkers are a tool for monitoring waste emissions. And PFAS is still not mandated in monitoring waste to energy emissions, nor in biomonitoring research. Thank you.
Muchas gracias por su presentación.
Thank you for your presentation. Thank you very much. We do have some questions in the chat. I will read some of them. So before you go, and we know that you are in Europe and it's quite late in Europe, the first question is in the chat, and you're in accordance to some articles in Denmark and some other countries in the Netherlands, they incinerate waste and they import waste. They are related to cancer diseases. Are there studies in this regard?
Yeah, there are a lot of studies of the relation of dioxins and cancers. Yes, especially in Spain, there are really following epidemiological studies. Yes, and indeed, because in the Netherlands there's a moratorium for waste, and they now the total waste from the Netherlands waste is lowering, so they are now importing waste from the UK, from Denmark, and even from Italy.
But also not only household waste, but also other kind of waste, and that require, and when this is burning at 850 degrees, with all these what we have seen, all the calamities and all these failures, and not properly monitoring, only just 2 times for the regulations, 2 times 6 or 12 hours a year, pre-announced under ideal conditions. So you can imagine, a lot is unknown, and we welcome this research, also epidemiological, yes, related to cancer, and we get these questions from oncology as well.
Muchas gracias. Les voy a leer otra pregunta en español
Thank
también.
you. I will read another question, which says that incineration is being promoted, and it is said that the new incinerators do not have the problems of the older ones. Is it true that the new ones are better than the previous ones?
No. Yeah, that they like to tell you, but we have done studies on the old ones and the new ones, especially the new ones. But even the new ones are emitting a lot of persistent organic pollutants. No, there is no difference. No.
And I think that has also to do with the last infographic. Toxic in is toxic out. If our household waste or our waste is so full of toxic chemicals, which requires a very high combustion, very filter systems, it is not, PFAS can hardly destroy it at 850 degrees, and our products are full. Just to give you an example, so yes, state of the art, but as we could see with the new waste incinerators in Spain, and even in Belgium or others, or also in the Netherlands, in our hometown, yes, it's emitting pops.
Haré una pregunta más que viene en español y espero si se pueden dar el tiempo quizá de leer la que está en inglés y contestarla.
And there's another question in the chat in English as well.
La pregunta dice,
and the question is as follows. Have you seen a relationship between the bioaccumulation in the bioindicators correlation with the increase of health problems like cancer in nearby cities or nearby inhabitants?
Yeah, we see indeed there are relations that are full of studies, especially from China, where a lot of incinerators are built and still building up, but there are a lot of evidence near the incinerator people have more health problems, and especially with cancers.
Yes, and we would love to work more closely with also medical researchers to follow this. We started in 2019 with mother milk to do research of the mother milk of the mothers near the new built waste incinerator. But it is it takes a lot to monitor this every year, and a lot of organization and team. But yes, we're working on it, but it is it requires from all parties, also for medical input, then when we only pick, when we pick some vegetable samples or other. So it is really teamwork, and we would like to extend that.
Muy bien, muchas gracias. Creo que sí, la colaboración
Thank you.
entre
Yes, I
medicina y
agree
ética
that,
comportamental
of course, the
sería clave en el
medical
futuro.
community
Tenemos algunas
and the
otras
environmental
preguntas, pero
part
creo que podemos
have to
guardarlas y a
work
lo
as a
mejor
team.
si todas
We do
funcionan,
have
hablarlo
other
después.
questions that
Y
maybe we
pues bueno, por ahora
can
agradecerle
tackle
mucho su
them later,
presentación y
but we would
continuaremos
like to
con
thank you, and
el
we will
siguiente
continue with the
presentador.
next speaker. Thank you.
El siguiente presentador,
Thank
gracias.
you. Thank you for the good work.
El siguiente presentador es Rafael
The
Eures.
next
Él va a
speaker is
hablar en
Rafael
portugués y ahorita
Eures. He will
rápido antes de
speak
que él
in
hable les daré un
Portuguese,
poco de la
but
interpretación para los
before
que sigan
he
teniendo dudas.
starts,
Pero voy a
I will
presentar a
talk
Rafael.
about
Él es
Rafael.
ingeniero
Rafael
químico
is
de
a
la
chemical
Universidad
engineer
Federal
from
de
the
Río de
Federal
Janeiro.
University of Rio
Actualmente
de
es miembro del
Janeiro.
Comité de
He's
Gestión de
currently
la
a member of
Alianza
the
Desierto de
Management
Brasil
Committee of the
y
Zero
trabaja en
Waste
la
Brazil
coalición
Alliance and
Vida
works for the
Plástica.
Plastic
Fue
Life
coautor del
Coalition.
informe sobre el
He
escenario de la
co-authored the report
COP21
on
en Brasil y
RDF
estuvo presente
in
en la
Brazil and
conferencia en
was at the
2025. Él nos va a hablar sobre
2025 COP. He
coincineración
will
y
talk about
coprocesamiento de casos en
co-incineration and
Latinoamérica.
co-processing
Y
cases
rápido,
in
antes,
Latin
Rafael, de
America.
que compartas tu presentación,
And
voy a hacer
Rafael, before
rápido.
you start your presentation, I will
Creo
talk
que no
about,
sé si esto va a funcionar.
let me
Ok.
see if it works.
Quería compartirles para
I would
ver
like
dónde
to
está la
share
interpretación para aquellas personas
some
que están
tips
todavía
about the
teniendo un poquito
interpretation
de
for those
problema,
of you that are having some
pero
issues.
creo que,
But let me see.
creo que no va a ser la manera de hacerlo. Perdón, quería intentarlo antes de que
So
hablara usted. En la parte de
I was
abajo, del
trying
lado
to do it,
derecho, hay un
but
botón
on
que
the
se llama
right
Mundo y dice
part, there's a
Interpretación. Ahí pueden
world that
elegir
says
el idioma que están
interpretation.
escuchando.
There you can pick the
Rafael, con
language that you
esto
want to
te doy la
listen to.
bienvenida. Te recuerdo hablar lento para la
Rafael, you have the
interpretación y
floor,
pues
and please speak slowly for the
adelante.
interpreters. Thank you.
Muito obrigado, Nena, pela introdução. Muito obrigado a todos pela oportunidade de poder compartilhar
Thank you so
pouco do
much
nosso
for this
trabalho que
opportunity to
vemos
share
conduzindo
our work,
aqui
what we
na
do,
região da América
and
Latina.
what we are
Como foi
doing
dito, meu
in the
nome é
region of
Rafael
Latin.
Eudes, eu faço parte da Aliança do Zero Brasil
I am
e hoje
Rafael
estarei trazendo
Eudes.
pouco
I am
dos
part
casos
of the
de
Zero Waste
coincineração e
Alliance in
coprocessamento
Brazil, and I
aqui
will
na
talk
América
about some
Latina,
cases
as
of
investigações que
co-incineration
estamos
and
conduzindo
co-processing
na
cases in
nossa
Latin
região.
America.
Eu agradeço
In regards of the
imensamente
research conducted in our
palestrantes que
region,
vieram
I
anteriormente
really
e trouxeram
appreciate my colleagues,
amplo entendimento, compreensão a respeito do tema. Aqui na América Latina, nós conduzimos
all of
dois
my colleagues
estudos a
know
respeito de
about
coprocessamento,
these
importação de
subjects
resíduos
really
e
well.
a
We
questão
conducted two
dos
studies in Latin
combustíveis derivados
America
de
about waste
resíduos.
management.
Esses estudos foram
We
conduzidos
talked
por
about
organizações da América Latina
biofuels
em
that
parceria
derive from
com
waste,
o IPEM.
and
Então,
this is the
falando
case in Latin
inicialmente
America.
a respeito do
So
caso do México, nesse estudo
we talk
pudemos
about
investigar
Mexican
de
case.
como que
In this
funciona a
study,
importação
we've
de
been
resíduos
able
plásticos
to conduct
no
research on
território.
how plastic
Foi
waste
mostrado
is
através
imported
desse
in the
estudo que
territory.
existe aumento na
We've seen
importação
through this study
e
the
exportação
increase
de
in
resíduos
the
no México e que isso
import
se
and
deve
export of
principalmente
waste materials in
de
Mexico,
origem, né? Esses resíduos
and
são de
this is
origem
mainly the
dos
case
Estados Unidos. Aqui eu
because of its
mostro apenas
origin is the
os
US.
resíduos de um código
I am
específico chamado
the
código
waste
3915,
of a specific code in this
mas no
slide
estudo vocês conseguirão observar
3915 code,
outros
but in the
códigos
study you
que se
will be
referem a
able
outros
to
resíduos que
see
também são
other codes that refer
importados
to
e
other
exportados
types of
para o
waste
México e que
that are
possuem
imported and exported to
uma investigação a
Mexico,
respeito dos seus impactos.
and that
Também é importante
they
evidenciar que o
have
estudo também
research on
mostrou
their
que
impacts.
existem
It's important to
inconsistências
mention
entre
that the
diferentes
study
bases
showed
que
that there are
que
similarities
apresentam
between
esses dados,
different
mostrando
bases
o quanto que é
that
difícil em
present
termos de
this
transparência de
information by
entendermos
showing
os
how
possíveis
difficult
impactos
it is
destes
to understand
resíduos
the
entrando
possible
nos
impacts
territórios
of
da
these
região da
types
América Latina.
of waste
Aqui eu
that
gostaria de
enter
mostrar pouco do mapa
the Latin
interativo
American region.
presente neste
In this
site
slide,
chamado
I would like to show you
México
the
Próximo,
interactive
onde ele
map
mostra
of this
de
site
forma bem
that is
detalhada quais
called
são
mexicotoxico.org and shows the different countries that import waste and export waste to Mexico.
Então, quem quiser entender mais
In
a
this
respeito
case,
de como é o cenário de importação e
this
exportação de resíduos
this
plásticos,
has been studied
pode
for many
consultar
years,
este
and of
site.
course, you are
Falando
invited to
mais,
enter
então,
this site and
sobre
have
a
a look
questão
at
do
it.
coprocessamento,
If we talk about
este site
co-processing,
também mostra
I would like to
informações a
mention
respeito
that this site
de onde
shows
estão
information
localizadas
related
estas
to
fábricas,
the
estas
places in which
instalações de
the
coprocessamento.
factories
Neste mapa
and
conseguimos observar
facilities of
33
co-processes
instalações
are
que operam
located.
o coprocessamento
We can
em
see
19 estados
the different
diferentes
sites
do México.
that operate
A
for
questão de
this
coprocessamento para
method
nós
in
é muito
19
importante
different
de ser
states in
abordada, da
Mexico.
gente compreender, apesar
Co-processing
das
is
inúmeras
very
dificuldades
important
em
to
termos de
tackle,
transparência,
and it's important to understand
principalmente quando a gente pensa, por
the
exemplo,
different
convenções como a Basileia,
difficulties in
onde
terms of
poderiam estar
transparency,
considerando
especially
esses
when we
resíduos
think
plásticos
in terms
chamados de
of
oculto, como, por exemplo, esses utilizados
these plastic
em plantas
waste,
de
for example, that
coprocessamento.
are used
Também gostaria
in
de evidenciar
co-processing
aqui que no
plants.
estudo
Also, I would
realizado
like to show you
por
that
organizações do México,
in this
eles tentaram
study
entrar em
that
contato
was
com
conducted by
essas
Mexican
instalações para
organizations, they tried
perguntar,
to
para ter
contact
acesso
these
em termos de
sites
informações
in order to have
das suas
access to information
legislações, do seu
about
licenciamento para a operação dessas
the
plantas e apenas
licenses and
uma instalação
legislations
respondeu à
for
equipe,
these sites
mostrando que existe
operations.
enorme
Only one of
desafio
them
em termos de
responded to this
transparência
request,
e até mesmo plantas operando sem
and it
apropriada
means that
autorização
the
ambiental.
challenge in
O
regards to
estudo também
transparency
mostra
is huge,
algumas
and also
plantas
in terms of environmental
atualmente
authorizations.
instaladas no
This
México
study shows that
e
some
quais são
factories
o número
that
de
are in
populações ao
Mexico,
redor
it
dessas
shows
instalações. Aqui
the
eu gostaria de
populations
evidenciar o
around
caso
these sites.
do município
I
de
would like to
Tlaquepaque,
show you the
onde
case of
aproximadamente 2 milhões
the
de pessoas vivem
municipality of
próximas a essa instalação
Tlaquepaque,
de
in which
coprocessamento,
there are
onde
roughly 2
essas
million
pessoas
people,
podem estar
2
sendo
million
impactadas em relação a
persons
emissões de
nearby
cloro,
the area.
dioxinas,
Of
enxofre,
course,
metais
they
pesados e
can
outras
receive an
substâncias químicas
impact
tóxicas,
as a
como foi
result
evidenciado
of heavy
em
metals
apresentações
and
anteriores.
toxic
Aqui,
substances,
então,
as you can
falando
see
pouco
from
sobre o
previous
cenário do Brasil,
presentations. Therefore,
agora indo para o Brasil,
and if we talk about Brazil in
estudamos,
particular,
avaliamos os impactos em relação à
we study
importação de resíduos
the
plásticos.
impact in
Esse estudo foi
relationship
conduzido
with
previamente pela
plastic
equipe da Aliança Resíduos Zero Brasil,
waste.
onde fez comparativo
It has been
ao longo dos anos
conducted
da
with the
quantidade
Zero Waste
de resíduos que são
Brazil Alliance,
importados
and
para o Brasil.
they were
Falando
dealing
pouco
with
sobre o coprocessamento, no
waste
caso
that
do
is
Brasil,
imported
quando
to
esse
Brazil. They
estudo de
talk about
roadmap tecnológico
co-processing in
foi
Brazil,
realizado pela indústria,
and
eles
this has been
evidenciaram que
conducted.
o Brasil é o sexto maior
When this
consumidor
was conducted,
de cimento, e oitavo
it was
maior
perceived that
produtor.
Brazil
E
is the
no
sixth
Brasil, quando esse
producer,
estudo foi realizado, existem
and
100 instalações de coprocessamento.
there are
Algumas
100
integradas
sites
e
of
outras apenas uma
co-processing
área. As integradas
in
são
this area.
essas
Some of them
instalações onde
are
existem tanto
integrated
o equipamento
and
de moagem
others
quanto
are related to mills.
o forno de
There are
clinker. Então,
mill
falando pouco
sites
sobre os
in these
dados que
areas,
avaliamos
and
dentro
if
desse
we
nosso
talk
relatório
about
de
information
investigação que
that
está
we
em
assessed
andamento,
in
assim
our
como o
report,
do México, nós analisamos a
and of course
quantidade
it's
de
an
resíduos que
ongoing
são
survey,
processados em fornos
as
de
is the
cimento,
case in
mostrando
Mexico.
que de
We've
2019
analyzed
para 2022
information,
houve aumento
and it was
que
shown that
dobrou a
since
quantidade desses
2019 to
coprocessados,
2022,
e é possível evidenciar
the
também que
number of
a
co-processed
maior parte
waste
desses
was
resíduos
doubled.
são
You can
pneus ou
see
resíduos de classe 1, que são
that
resíduos perigosos,
most of them
evidenciando os
are
possíveis
tires
impactos que
or
podem existir
plastic
a
waste
partir
that
dessas
is
emissões e os desafios para
hazardous. And of
fiscalizar
course,
as emissões nessas plantas.
there
Também é
are
possível
challenges that
destacar que
are
houve
related to
aumento
this
na
study.
quantidade de
Also, we
resíduos
would
sólidos
like to
urbanos que
highlight
são
that the number
queimados
of
neste forno de
solid waste
coprocessamento.
that is
Aqui pouco sobre o que a indústria
in these
planeja para o
processing
Brasil em termos de
furnaces are
coprocessamento. E neste estudo conduzido pela indústria mostra como eles
Too many to
preveem, né?
count.
Eles
In this study, you
projetam
can
um
see
aumento
how
na queima de combustíveis derivados de resíduos
the increase
até 17% do total até
is
2050, com o objetivo de
shown
atender
on this table,
aspectos
and the
ambientais,
increase will
mostrando
be by
quanto é preocupante
17%
este dado, visto
until
que os resíduos sólidos
2040.
urbanos
And of
apresentam,
course,
no caso
we
do
are
Brasil, entre
concerned about
15 a
this
20%
because in the
materiais
case of
plásticos
Brazil,
que
we
possuem
see the
origem
increase
fóssil e o
between
aumento da
15 to
utilização destes
20% in
resíduos
terms of
como
plastic waste that
materiais
are
para combustíveis, evidencia também o impacto ambiental
used
associado
in
a mudanças climáticas.
fuel, and they have a
Outra
social
informação
impact.
que investigamos durante o nosso relatório foi a quantidade de resíduos
Regarding
que são
the
transportados no
investigation
território
in
brasileiro.
our
Então,
report,
analisamos
this
os
is waste
manifestos
carried across the
manifestos de transporte de
Brazilian
resíduos
territory.
realizados a
Here
nível
we
federal
show
e, a partir
the
disso, conseguimos quantificar
declaration of waste
entre o período de janeiro de
transported
2024 até julho
across
de
our territory
2024
at the national level, and from
o
January
destino desses
2024
resíduos,
to July
sendo de uma
2024, we were
forma
able to look at
considerável
the
os tratamentos
destination of
associados
this
à
waste. And
queima,
finally,
a tratamentos
we
térmicos de forma geral,
considered the
sendo destinados para blendagem,
thermal
coprocessamento e
treatment,
para o
those
coprocessamento.
associated to
Trazendo um pouco mais do
combustion
que os
used for
nossos estudos
processing and
evidenciaram, os três
co-processing.
principais estados
And
que
here other
recebem e que
data
transportam, né,
of
resíduos
the
para
report in
a
the
blendagem, para o
main
coprocessamento e coprocessamento
states
são de Goiás,
that
Mato Grosso e
receive
Paraná,
these
e
resources
os
for
resíduos
processing, Goiás,
são
Mato Grosso, and
principalmente
Paraná,
aqueles de
and the
classe 1, que são
waste
resíduos perigosos.
mainly
Depois, resíduos da
type
classe 2A,
1
que para o Brasil são
waste,
os não
which are
inertes, e os
hazardous,
2B,
and
os
also
inertes.
class 2A.
Um desafio que temos na nossa região
A
é
challenge
justamente
that
em
we
termos de
have in
legislação
this
ambiental.
region
Nós tínhamos uma resolução
is
CONAMA de
regarding
1999,
environmental
que no
legislation.
último
We
governo,
have
na
a
última
regulation that
gestão de
dates back to
extrema-direita,
1999,
houve uma nova
and in the
resolução
last
em que houve
right-wing
um afrouxamento
administration,
das
a new
legislações
resolution was
ambientais
issued
e das
that
termos
weakened
gerais
the environmental
ambientais. Então,
regulations.
esse é um dos nossos desafios como
So
região da América Latina,
environmentally speaking,
como
we are
até mesmo as
worse off than
legislações que
before.
temos,
One of
elas
the
podem ser
challenges that we
enfraquecidas com
have
o
as a
tempo,
region here in Latin
evidenciando a importância
America
de, por exemplo, os
has to
países do
do
norte
with the
global que
weakness of
exportam resíduos
environmental
para o sul global,
regulations
que eles também
compared
precisam ter
to the
a
global
garantia de
north
que esses
countries that
resíduos conseguem
export
ser geridos.
waste to
Mas
the
o que
global
nós
south.
conseguimos evidenciar aqui é
And
que a nossa legislação
what
foi
we were
enfraquecida.
able to evidence in this report
Dentro do que
is
está
that
escrito nessa
our
legislação foi que
legislation
era
was
possível
weakened
emitir POPs acima do limite
within
evidenciado na
this
resolução, caso haja um
legislation.
ganho
It's
ambiental,
possible
deixando
to
muito em aberto
emit
o que isso
toxic
pode
substances
significar.
above the due
Foi
level,
removido a
and we must consider what
obrigação,
this can mean, of course,
foi removido
and
a
the
possibilidade
obligation
de não queima de
or
embalagens de
the
agrotóxicos, então agora essas embalagens
possibility
podem
of
ser queimadas em planos
not
de coprocessamento,
burning
e também teve uma ausência de
agrotoxical
todas as informações
packaging
que essas instalações
was
deveriam
removed,
fornecer
so now
para o
they
órgão
can
ambiental
be burnt, and
adequado.
these
Na direita
plants
vocês
should
conseguem ver
fulfill
o posicionamento das
other
organizações de sociedade
environmental
civil e pesquisadores
regulations.
em
So we
relação
realize that
a essa resolução.
civil
Conseguimos.
Perdona
organizations
que te
and
interrumpa hace
researchers have
minutos.
carried out
Sim, com
several
certeza. Então,
studies.
para encerrar, eu gostaria de evidenciar aqui o desafio que temos, até
And to
mesmo para
conclude,
entender os
I'd like
impactos dessas
to
usinas de coprocessamento.
talk about the
Então, aqui foi um caso
challenges and
evidenciado pelo
to
Ministério
understand
Público
the
Federal,
impact
como
of these
essas instalações de
co-processing plants.
coprocessamento.
This is a
Houve um
domestic
aumento no caso
case,
de doença
a
respiratória.
co-processing
Existe uma
plant
questão de
in
subnotificação
which
dos
there was
impactos
an increase
nos
in
territórios ao
respiratory
redor, e que este é um
diseases,
problema
and
silencioso
there's
e ainda
also
precisa de
an
muitos esforços
impact in the
para
surrounding
podermos entender
areas.
todos os
This
impactos que
is
essas
a
instalações podem
silence
fazer nos
problem
nossos
that
territórios. E
calls
por
for great
último, só para
efforts to
correlacionar com
understand the
as
impact of these
incineradoras,
plants across our
como existem
territories
casos
and
muito
to
similares entre o coprocessamento e
link
a
it to
coincineração e a
incinerators. There are
incineração,
many similar
principalmente, pois
cases
é trazido que a queima desses resíduos
as to
gera CO2
incineration and
biogênico e esse CO2
post-incineration.
biogênico
The
de
burning
fonte
of this
renovável,
waste
ele
generates
não é
CO2
considerado no total de
and
emissões.
also
Entretanto,
fossil
esses resíduos
emissions
orgânicos que são
that are not
queimados,
considered in the
sejam
total
com
number of
incineração ou
emissions.
incineração, eles
This
poderiam ter
waste
um
that is
destino
burnt
mais
in
apropriado, como, por exemplo,
co-incineration
compostagem
or
e
at
digestão
incineration
anaeróbica.
plants
É isso, muito
could
obrigado.
have a more appropriate
Obrigada,
use, such as
Rafael.
composting. Thank you very
Responderemos las
much.
dudas que tengan para él a lo largo del webinar y algunas quizá al final
Thank
en el
you,
tiempo que quede para los
Rafael.
siguientes ponentes. Así que con estos
We will
casos me
then
permito
be
también ahora
accepting
presentarles a
questions,
la siguiente
but
ponente,
allow me
que es
to
Alejandra Parra
introduce the
Muñoz. Ella
next
tiene un máster
speaker,
en planificación
Alejandra
de la
Parra
Universidad de
Muñoz, who
Otago
has
y otra en gestión de
a
recursos
master
naturales.
in
Es cofundadora de
planning,
la Red de Acción por los
and
Derechos Ambientales RADA,
co-founder
coordinadora de la Alianza Basura Cero Chile,
she is co-founder
asesora
of the
en plásticos
Environmental
y
Rights
basura
Action
cero para
Network,
la
RADA,
Alianza
coordinator of
Global
the
de
Zero Waste
Alternativas a la
Alliance Chile,
Incineración GAIA.
advisor on plastics and zero waste
Esta
for the
primera
Global
presentación que ella
Alliance for
hará será
Gaia.
sobre la
She
experiencia
will
desde
now
Chile en
present on
rechazo
the
a WTE
Chilean
Araucanía.
experience
Ale, te paso la
rejecting
palabra.
the plant in Araucanía to
Muchas gracias,
turn
Jimena.
waste
Gracias
into fuel.
los
Thank you
presentadores
very much, Jimena.
anteriores y también a todas
And
y
I
todos quienes
thank all
están
previous
participando
panelists
en este
and all
webinar.
those who are
Voy a
participating in this
compartir
webinar.
entonces mi
I'm now
pantalla
going to share my screen
para que puedan ver mi presentación.
so that you can see my presentation.
Estoy intentando ampliarla para que se vea en pantalla completa.
Te escucho un poco más bajito tu audio, no sé si puedas acercarte tantito
Do you
tu
think you
micrófono.
can
Ya
probably
estamos
get
viendo tu
closer
presentación
to the
en modo
mic?
general.
¿En modo
Because
general?
your
Sí, ahí te
voice
escuchas mejor.
sounds
Sí, todavía
Ya.
está en modo
far
general.
away.
Súper.
Ahora está lista.
There we go.
Bueno, muchas gracias. Como decía Jimena, yo soy Alejandra
As
Parra
Jimena
y
said, I'm
soy
Alejandra
miembro de la Red de
Parra.
Acción por los
I'm a
Derechos
member
Ambientales, una
of the
organización
Environmental
que está
Rights Action
ubicada
Network, an
en la región de la
organization
Araucanía, en
located
el
in
sur de Chile.
Araucanía
Y
region in the
aquí
south of
estamos
Chile.
enfrentando un
And here
proyecto que se
we
llama
are
WTE
implementing a
Araucanía. La
project
sigla
called
WTE significa Waste to Energy en inglés, de
Araucania
basura
Waste
a
to
energía,
Energy.
que en el fondo
From
es de quemar la basura y usar el calor para producir
it's a burning
electricidad,
waste to
que a
produce
primera vista para
electricity.
algunas autoridades suena
At
como una
first
idea
sight, to some
maravillosa, pero la
authorities,
verdad es
this
que
seems to be
trae
a
oculto
brilliant
detrás un
idea, but
panorama
it
muy
conceals
negativo, y es lo
very
que ya nos
negative
contaron los
aspects, as
presentadores
already
anteriores, así que
mentioned
les voy a
by
contar
my
cómo hemos
predecessors.
enfrentado
I'm going
este
to mention
proyecto
how,
acá en la región de la Araucanía.
through this
Bueno, la
project, we've
primera vez que
addressed the
ingresó a
issue.
evaluación ambiental
The
este proyecto
first
lo
time
hizo a
this project went into
Comisión de Impacto
environmental
Ambiental el año
assessment
2016. Las
was in
declaraciones de impacto ambiental en
2016.
Chile son una
Environmental
forma de
impact
evaluación
declarations
ambiental que
in
es
Chile are a
simplificada,
form
que
of
es para proyectos
assessment that's
supuestamente que no
simplified for
producen
projects that
daños los recursos naturales,
allegedly
que no
don't harm
afectan
natural
a zonas
resources
protegidas ni a población
or that
protegida,
don't affect protected areas or
entre otras
population,
características que tienen que cumplir. Y
among
en el
other
caso de un
characteristics.
incinerador de
And in
basura,
the
estas
case
características
of a
claramente no
waste
se cumplían, así es que
incinerator,
desde
it
la
did
Red de
not
Acción
meet
por los
these
Derechos Ambientales
characteristics.
solicitamos al
So,
Servicio de Evaluación Ambiental que declararan
from our
inadmisible el proyecto,
network,
y
we
así
asked
fue,
the
por
authorities
lo
to
que la
declare
empresa
the
se vio
project
obligada a
inadmissible. So,
ingresar
the
un
company
estudio de impacto
had to
ambiental. Y
submit
esto
an
lo hizo el
environmental
año
impact
2017.
assessment that was
Y en
done
ese estudio
in
de impacto ambiental,
2017. At that
el
environmental impact
mismo proyecto,
assessment,
el titular del proyecto,
the
proponía
head of the
este polígono que
project
ven ahí en rojo
proposed
en
this
ese mapa,
polygon in
donde
red on the map.
ellos delimitaron el área de
They
influencia para el
delimited
componente
the
aire.
area of
Es
influence
raro que el
regarding
aire ocupe
air.
un espacio
It's strange
así
for air
rectangular,
to be
pero así
limited to a
definieron ellos
rectangle, but
la
that is
evaluación de
how
impacto del componente
they
aire. Y
defined
entonces
the
nosotros
area of
dentro de
impact of
ese
air.
rectángulo
Within this
ubicamos las comunidades
rectangle,
mapuche
we
que se encuentran
identified
en
the
ese
Mapuche
espacio territorial.
communities,
Y identificamos alrededor de
and we
50 comunidades
identified around
mapuche. El
50
pueblo mapuche es el pueblo
Mapuche
original
communities. Mapuche
que
communities
pertenece a esta zona
are
aquí,
native to
o al
this
cual pertenece
area.
este territorio del sur de Chile.
this territory in the south of
y que
Chile
por lo
is
tanto son
owned by
una
them.
población
So
de especial protección en Chile,
they
en
require
términos legislativos.
special protection at
Y así es que
legislative
eso
level
es una de las herramientas que usamos,
and in
digamos,
our
junto
legislation.
con
So
la
this is
lucha
one of the
con
tools
las
we
comunidades
use
mapuche que se
together
verían
with
afectadas
the
por
joint
este proyecto.
struggle with the Mapuche
Bueno,
communities affected by the project.
tienen un proceso de participación ciudadana
The
obligatoria,
Mapuches
cosa que
have
no es obligatoria en el caso
mandatory
de las
citizen
declaraciones de impacto ambiental,
participation,
y
which
esa es
is
una de las razones
not
por las cuales la
mandatory in the
mayoría de
case
las
of the
empresas
declarations, but
intenta
in the
evaluarse
assessments
solo
they are. So many
y
times
no por estudio
companies
en
try
Chile, pero
and be
ya que se
assessed
obligó a la
under the
empresa a
declaration
evaluarse
only.
por declaración,
But since the
comenzó entonces un proceso
company
de
had
participación
to
ciudadana
do this,
donde el
they
titular
underwent a
del
citizen
proyecto junto con
participation
el
process
Servicio de
where the
Evaluación
head of the
Ambiental
project,
van a
together with the
conversar y a explicar el
Environmental
proyecto
Assessment
desde la perspectiva
Service,
del titular,
they
por
go and
supuesto,
explain what the
con las
project is all
comunidades
about
que
from
se
their
verían afectadas.
standpoint
Y la
with the
foto de
affected
arriba
communities. And the
es
picture on
una de las
top
primeras reuniones de participación
shows
ciudadana
one of
que
the
se
first
realizaron
citizen
dentro de
participation meetings
esa etapa de la
held
evaluación, y esa
during
reunión
that
fue en la comunidad
evaluation
Juan
stage.
Chavarría, en
And
la
that
comuna del
was at the
Alto Arroz.
Juan
Y
Chavarria
la comunidad
community.
inmediatamente
And
invitó a la empresa
the
a
community
salir
immediately
de
asked
la
the
sala
company
y
to
no
walk
continuar
out
con
of
la
the room
presentación del
and not
proyecto, que la
continue with
comunidad
the
inmediatamente detectó
presentation
como
of the
muy
project because the
dañino y peligroso
community
para
thought it would be
el
very
territorio y la
harmful
salud de las
and
personas y de
dangerous
las futuras
for the
generaciones.
territory, the
Análisis
health
mucho más
of its
acertados el que
inhabitants and of
hicieron
future
inicialmente las autoridades,
generations.
por ejemplo, comunales en
The
Temuco, la ciudad donde yo vivo, que es
in
la capital de la
Temuco, the city
Araucanía,
where I live,
que
the capital
es
of
la razón
Araucanía,
original para la creación de este proyecto, que tenía como
acted
objetivo quemar la basura
differently,
de la
but
comuna de Temuco,
they
pero es
had
la comuna de
proposed
Lautaro,
this
que
project to
queda
burn waste,
alrededor de 30 kilómetros al
but
norte
in a
de la
place
ciudad de
that's
Temuco.
30
Entonces, esta es una de
kilometers
las estrategias
north
también
of
que
this
por lo
city of
general usan
Temuco. So
los
this is one
promotores de
of
la
the
incineración,
strategies
el
that those who
alejar
promote
los impactos
incineration do.
de la población
They
que hipotéticamente se
try
vería beneficiada.
and
Entonces,
have
así
the
se genera menos
impacts have
rechazo al
an
proyecto, y
effect
además
further away from their
beneficiada tiene,
inhabitants.
en este caso, hubiera tenido 300.000
So
habitantes versus la comuna
in this
directamente afectada, que
case,
tiene alrededor de
the
40.000.
city would have
Entonces,
had
la capacidad de reaccionar de
300,000
una comuna más
inhabitants,
pequeña
and the
es menor
community
a la
where
de
they
una
installed this
comuna más
was
grande, y
about
esa también es otra estrategia
40,000. So
que usan
that's
los
another
promotores de la incineración.
strategy that those promoting
Desarrollamos un
incineration
logo
tend
que
to
sirvió
use. We
muchísimo
developed a
para
logo
todas las
that was very
comunicaciones, ¿cierto?
useful for all our
Para
communications
lograr generar
to
una identidad, algo identificable fácilmente con
generate
esta lucha,
our
y
identity
hicimos una serie
somehow,
de
something that you
movilizaciones
can link to this
públicas,
struggle.
como la imagen que
And
ven
we
abajo a la
carried
derecha,
out public
donde se ve
mobilizations, as
la
you can
primera
see
marcha que
here
hicimos
on the right-hand
del
side,
incinerador de
down
basura.
below.
Una de las primeras cosas que también tuvimos
One
que
of
hacer
the
es
first things
estudiar
we
el
had to do
proyecto,
was to
y
analyze
un
the
estudio de impacto
project.
ambiental es una
An,
serie de
an
documentos con
environmental
muchas páginas.
impact
Entonces,
assessment
lo que
includes a
hicimos también
series of
fue pedir
documents
ayuda para la revisión y
that
el
are many
análisis del
pages
proyecto,
long. So we asked
dividiéndolo,
for help to do this.
repartirnos los capítulos para
We
que no fuera
divided it
una
into
persona que estuviera
chapters so
revisando
that it wouldn't be
el
one
documento
single
completo, sino
person
que varias personas que
reviewing the
revisaran
full
distintas
document,
partes,
but
y
that
después
instead
nos
different people
contamos
reviewed different
mutuamente el
parts.
resumen
And
y los
then
puntos
we
críticos donde deberíamos
summarized
poner
this to
más
one
atención.
another,
Y en base a esa información
highlighting the
desarrollamos
critical
muchas
matters. And
jornadas
based on this
informativas,
information, we carried out
donde
lots of
ustedes ven, por ejemplo,
information
ahí arriba al
meetings.
centro,
There,
una de las jornadas informativas.
uh,
Esa fue en
in the
un
middle,
bar
you can see
en
one
Temuco,
of the information
y como ven,
meetings in
no
a
hay muchas
bar in
personas, ninguna de
Temuco.
las jornadas fue masiva, la
Not
verdad.
many
Siempre
people
tenían
attended. None of them
alrededor
have,
de 10 personas
none of
participando,
these
pero
meetings has
al
been very
revisarlas
massive.
muchas veces y
But
realizarlas de
since we
manera
held them
presencial
over
en
and over
distintos
again in
espacios,
person
eso va
in different
generando una
places,
reproducción de la información, porque cada una de
we
estas
were
personas
able
se va
to
con un
convey
panorama muy claro
information because these
de
people
qué se
would
trata el
leave with a
proyecto,
very
cuál es
clear idea of what the project was all about,
necesidad de movilizarse. Entonces, cada una
and
de las personas que
that
participaron en esta
it
jornada
really deserved
finalmente se transformó
mobilizing
en
against it.
personas que
So
difundían más
all
allá la
those who
información
participated
a
helped
sus
to
entornos.
disseminate the
Y estas
information
jornadas
in their
las
own
hicimos en
environments. And
universidades, en
these
juntas de
meetings we
vecinos,
held at
en
universities,
bares,
at
en
neighborhood
cualquier
boards, at
espacio, la verdad,
bars, or
donde
at
se
town
pudiera
halls,
realizar
wherever
para llegar a un
we
público
could
lo
carry
más
them out
diverso
to
y
reach
amplio
out
posible.
to the
También
most
desarrollamos
diverse
información
audience.
gráfica, como lo que ven
We
abajo a la
also
izquierda, que es
prepared
un volante que por un
graphic
lado tiene
information.
8
On
razones
the
para decir
left,
no
there's
a
a
la
flyer
incineración
showing
y
8 reasons to say
en la otra
no
cara
to
tiene
incineration.
verdades
And
versus
on
mentiras
the other
de la
side,
incineración
we
y
included
entonces ahí desmentimos muchas
truths
de las
and
afirmaciones que
lies
hacen los
regarding
incineradores o los
incineration.
promotores
And
de la
there
incineración
we dismissed
de basura. Y eso
many of the statements made by
para
those promoting
difundir de
waste
manera sencilla
incineration,
cuáles
so
son
as
los
to, in a
riesgos y los
very
impactos
simple
de la
manner,
incineración de basura
disseminate the
en el público
risks
general.
and impacts
Y también a la
of
derecha ven un
waste
afiche
incineration on
de
the
la
public
tercera
at large.
marcha que
And
organizamos
on the
en
right
contra
is a
del proyecto de
poster
incineración
of
de
the third
basura.
demonstration
Entonces,
we
como ven,
organized
hicimos
against this
varias
waste
marchas
incineration project.
para demostrar
We held
públicamente el
several
rechazo al
demonstrations to
proyecto.
publicly show our
Ale,
rejection
perdona que te
to the
interrumpa, te queda un
project.
minuto.
I apologize for
Ya,
interrupting. 1 minute
pasa volando el
left.
tiempo. También
Oh,
parte de
how
la
time
estrategia fue
flies.
la promoción
Part
de
of the
basura cero,
strategy
que es
was to
muy
promote
importante.
zero
A la
waste.
vez que decimos que
It's
no queremos
very important
incineración,
indeed.
decir
We
cuál es
don't
la
want
opción que nosotros estamos
incineration, but
promoviendo.
we also
Y
have
entonces
to
hicimos
convey
3
the option we
seminarios
promote. So we
internacionales
held 3
sobre basura
international
cero en
seminars
la ciudad de
on zero
Temuco.
waste in the city of
Y
Temuco.
arriba a la derecha ven una
And
imagen de una de las
on the
jornadas
top
de
right-hand
observaciones
side, you can
ciudadanas que
see
realizamos. Esa fue el año
one of the
2019, donde
citizen
acercamos a la
observation
ciudadanía
meetings we held in
los formularios
2019,
para completar
where
observaciones
we gave
ciudadanas, que de otra manera es
citizens
muy
the
difícil que
forums
cualquier
to
persona acceda
complete
a esos formularios.
with their
Y es así
observations, or
como
else it's
juntamos más
difficult
de
to gain access to the
18.000
forums.
observaciones
And
ciudadanas en
in
contra
this way,
del
we
proyecto.
were able to gather
Bueno, en
18,000
marzo del
observations
2022 se
against the
convocó a la
project. In
Comisión
March
Evaluadora Ambiental
2022,
a nivel regional para
the
votar este
Environmental
proyecto.
Assessment
En
Committee
2
was
ocasiones
convened
consecutivas,
to vote on this
los
project.
evaluadores no
And
acudieron a la sesión
twice the
y no se
assessors
pudo
or
votar el
evaluators did not
proyecto
go to
por
the
falta de
session,
quórum.
and there was a lack
Luego
of
de eso
quorum
hubo
for
cambio de gobierno.
voting.
Estas primeras
After that, there
sesiones
was
se
a
convocaron
change in
durante el gobierno de Sebastián
administration. These
Piñera.
first
Luego hubo
sessions
cambio de
were
gobierno
convened
y
during
asumió
Sebastián
el nuevo
Piñera's
gobierno
administration, and when the
y
new government
los
took
nuevos
office,
seremis acudieron a la comisión
uh,
evaluadora y votaron
they did
unánimemente el
attend
rechazo
and they
a este proyecto. Esto fue
unanimously
durante la pandemia, por
rejected
eso
this
ven ahí que
project.
estamos
This
todos
was
con
during the pandemic.
mascarilla.
That's why
Luego
you can see we
de
are all
eso
wearing
realizamos una
masks.
celebración de este
After that,
rechazo y
we
ahí pueden
celebrated
ver
that
la
rejection,
celebración
and here
íntima que tuvimos.
you can
No
see
tenemos tiempo para ver el
this
video,
small
lamentablemente,
celebration we held. We
del
cannot
baile,
watch the video with all the
pero
dancing
posterior a
that
eso
went
la
on,
empresa
but
reclamó al
after
comité
that,
de
the company
ministros, que es
filed a claim with the Committee of
intentando que se
Ministers,
aprobara el proyecto desde el nivel
trying to
central,
have
así
the
que tuvimos que
project
volver a
approved.
movilizarnos el
So
año
once
2023 contra
again,
esto.
we
Fuimos a
had to
Santiago, nos
demonstrate
reunimos también
against
con
this. We
algunos de
went
los
to Santiago.
ministerios
We met with some
y
of
protestamos frente a la moneda,
the
llamando la atención
ministers.
sobre la
We
necesidad de volver a
held
rechazar
a
este proyecto y
demonstration
nuevamente fue
in
rechazado el año
front of
2023
the
por el
Palacio de la
Comité de Ministros
Moneda,
y ahí también ven abajo a
and
la derecha
in
la celebración de
2023
esa
it was
ocasión.
again
Pero la
rejected
empresa
by
luego
the
puso
Committee of
una reclamación
Ministers.
en
But
el Tribunal
the
Ambiental y esa reclamación
company then
se dio
filed a
en
claim
abril,
with the
el
Environmental
24 de abril,
Court,
recién
and
el
on
mes
the
pasado.
24th of April
Así que ahí tuvimos que volver a
2025,
hacer
last
todo
month,
un nuevo ciclo
uh,
de movilización,
so
informar a
once
la gente que
again
el
we
proyecto
had
de nuevo
to
estaba activo.
demonstrate and
em,
inform the
esta
people that the project was active
reclamación, como les digo,
again.
se vio el 24 de abril en el Tribunal
Uh,
Ambiental de Valdivia, pero todavía no
This
tenemos
was issued on
la
the
resolución del
24th of
tribunal, así es que
April in
estamos en
Valdivia,
espera
but
de
we
saber si es
still
que
haven't read the
nuevamente o si
resolution
se mantiene el
to
rechazo
see
al
whether
proyecto a nivel
the
institucional o si
project
nuevamente
will
vamos a
be
tener que
rejected at the
ponernos en pie de
institutional
guerra para
level,
seguir
or if
luchando contra este
again
proyecto.
we will
Esperamos
have
que
to fare a
el
war
proyecto sea
against this
nuevamente
project.
rechazado
Hopefully it will
y
be
les vamos a estar
rejected once
contando
again,
sobre
and
eso
we will let you know what
para
has happened
que
with
celebren con
this
nosotros.
so that you
Lo dejo hasta ahí.
celebrate with
Gracias.
us. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, Ale,
Thank you,
por
Ale.
esta excelente
Thank you for
presentación.
this
Esperamos
excellent
que siga habiendo buenas
presentation. We look
noticias en el
forward
futuro.
to good news in the
Y
future.
con esto
And
pasamos
with
a
that,
nuestra siguiente
we give the floor to our speaker, I would like to remind you that you can leave your questions in the chat box. Our following speaker is Deborah Machado Souza. She holds a PhD in civil engineering from Unicinos. She works on minimization. She participated in the project development of an eco-efficient technological solution for the remediation of degraded areas from 2020 to 2023. She holds a master's degree from the graduate program in mechanical engineering and engineering energy from the Valle University. Also, she's currently working in industrial CNP level A, and she's completing a postdoctoral internship in the graduate program in civil engineering at Unicinos. She will share a technical note on incineration in Brazil. Thank you. Deborah, you have the floor. She will speak in Portuguese for those of you who would like to change the language. Thank you.
Débora, no sé si... Ay, ya estás presentando, muy bien.
Deborah.
Sí, ya se está compartiendo.
I'm sharing my screen. Can you see my screen? Yes. Thank you. Is
Se escucha un poco cortado. Sí, creo que está mejor. A ver, intentémoslo.
Yes, let's try.
No se escucha bien tu audio, Débora.
We cannot hear you, Deborah.
Débora, no sé si me escuchas. Creo que
Deborah, can you hear us?
quizá tiene algunos problemas de internet.
I think she's having some technical issues.
Bueno, en lo que podemos recuperar ahorita para ver el problema.
Let's see if Deborah is back to us.
No sé si podamos seguir con nuestra siguiente presentación.
Maybe we can continue with our next speaker.
Sería bueno por el tiempo, que de hecho nos la va a volver a dar Alejandra Parra.
Alejandra Parra.
Pero ella nos va a hablar ahora sobre la...
And she will talk about
sobre el caso de basura cero en Europa.
Zero waste
Entonces, Ale,
in
espero
Europe.
Bien, si presentas ahorita,
So, Ale, you
Deborah
have the floor in the meantime. Okay, thank you.
Gracias, perfecto. Aquí voy a
Thank you, that's great.
pasar a compartir esta nueva presentación.
So I will share my new presentation now.
Nuestros compañeros de Basura Cero Europa que no pudieron
because our colleague from Zero Waste Europe cannot be here with us today because of time constraints. If you can come closer to the microphone, thank you.
Poner en pantalla completa.
Okay, let me have a whole view of the screen.
No me deja entrar al... A ver cómo lo hago.
Ya, con calma. Estamos viendo tu presentación, pero sí efectivamente falta.
We can see your screen, but we would like to see it in a presentation mode. Thank you.
Ahí sí.
Listo.
Bueno, esta presentación está en inglés, pero yo voy a hablar
The presentation is in English, but I will speak Spanish. This is a map of some of the cities of zero waste cities in Europe. There are over 500 cities that are committed with zero waste in Europe that are working closely with the Zero Waste Organization in Europe. This is a picture of those working in the organization in Europe. They've developed an institutional framework that promotes circular economy, with
desde Latinoamérica algunos rescatamos y otros
some
no. Lo
elements
que
in Latin
rescatamos
America that
es
we use and
todo
other
lo que tiene
elements
que
we
ver
don't
con la
use,
estrategia basura
but
cero.
we use the
Y en
zero
ese
waste
sentido,
program strategy.
han desarrollado también muchos avances.
They made
Hay
progress in
que
this
recalcar
regard,
también que desde el
and
año
we need to
2022
highlight
existe el Día
that since
Mundial Basura Cero
2022,
declarado por
there is
Naciones Unidas, que es el 30 de
the
marzo,
International
y es que
Zero
le da un
Waste Day
reconocimiento a
declared
esta
by
estrategia
the
como
United
algo
Nations. And of
que se
course, it
está promoviendo
acknowledges
en
the
todo el mundo.
strategy that is being promoted around the world.
Y en Europa le hacen este
In Europe,
acercamiento con estas
of
4 R's
course,
de
there's
reducir,
this
reutilizar,
4R
reciclar,
approach
pero
of
también
reduce, reuse,
es un
recycle,
elemento
and
cada vez más
redesign.
importante.
That is a very
Y
important
las cuestiones
element.
básicas de un programa
Of
basura
course,
cero
there are
en
basic
Europa
elements in
son
a zero
la
waste program,
recolección
and that
diferenciada
is
puerta a puerta,
the
que
door-to-door
incluya la
collection
recolección
that
por separado de los
includes, of
residuos
course,
orgánicos, la
organic waste,
prevención de la generación
waste
de residuos
prevention
con prácticas
at a
locales
local
como
level,
el compostaje
like home
doméstico, los pañales
composting, the
lavables para los
cloth
bebés, las
nappies for
guaguitas, las
babies.
tiendas que
And of
venden a
course, it's
granel, ¿cierto?
important to
Libre de
mention
empaque.
packaging-free
También
shops
los sistemas
are
de
very
cobro por
important.
lo que botas.
Pay as
Mientras
you
más
throw
basura botas, más te
systems.
cobran. Y la
And
revisión de la fracción
also,
rechazo.
it's
Lo que no se
important
puede
to
ni
mention
compostar ni reciclar,
those
ver qué es lo
items
que hay
that
ahí
cannot be
para saber
reused
también
and cannot be
qué programas especiales hay que
recycled.
desarrollar
And there
para
are
reducir
special
esa fracción.
programs to reduce this type of
Hay
waste.
una página web
There is a
con más
web
detalles
page,
cuáles son las ciudades que
and of
están
course, you can see the details of
inscritas en
those
este programa
cities
de
that are registered
con basura
in
cero
this
Europa.
program,
Hay muy
Zero
buenas
Waste
historias
Cities
como
in
las de
Europe.
Catarina,
There are very
Virnica,
nice stories
Argentona,
like
que
Nica,
tienen distintas
Argentona,
características y
Virnica
resultados.
that have different
Este es un
results and
gráfico
characteristics.
ya un poco
This
antiguo de
is a
Capanori, pero
graphic
pueden
that
ver
shows Capanori,
los
and
cambios
you can
tan
see
importantes
the
que ellos
important
han logrado
changes
con
that have been
la
achieved
reducción de la fracción rechazo,
with
que es la
the
parte gris de las
reduction
barras, y
function
el
that
aumento
is
de la
the gray
recuperación, que es
part,
la parte
and the collected
calipso,
waste
digamos,
that
pero
is
al
the
final
green
han
part.
logrado
At the
reducir
end,
tanto la
at the end of
fracción
the day, they
recuperable como la
reduced
fracción
the two
rechazo.
fractions,
Cuestión que es todo un éxito que
which
va
is
en
very
sentido contrario
successful
hacia donde
indeed.
va el resto del
And
planeta,
of course,
prácticamente.
they are
Ese es el esquema
in the right
de
direction.
la economía circular de la
This
Fundación
graph
Ellen MacArthur,
shows
donde
circular
se puede
economy
ver que
of
la
MacArthur
incineración
Foundation,
está
in
fuera
which
de
you
la
can
economía
see that
circular. Es una
incineration is
filtración, es un
outside
error
circular
cuando
economy.
ocurre.
It's a
No debería
mistake
ser
when this
considerado dentro
happens.
de
It
los
shouldn't be
esquemas de la
considered
economía circular de
inside the
incineración de
circular
basura.
economy.
Aquí me está tapando también una franja del Zoom. A ver si la puedo quitar. No, está.
Okay.
En Italia, estos son
In
datos de Italia
Italy,
como país.
this is
Italia es
information
el
of
país que tiene más
Italy as a
ciudades basura cero en
country.
Europa,
There
porque
are
aquí
zero
está
waste
Capanori, que es
cities
la
in
primera ciudad
Italy.
basura cero de
Capanori
Europa,
is the
y ellos
first
al año
zero waste
2022
city in Europe.
están
In
logrando un
2022,
promedio de
by
recuperación
2020,
del
the
64%
average
de los
of
residuos,
separate collection is
pero hay 6
4%
regiones
of
que han
waste.
logrado
There are
más del
6 regions that
70%,
achieved over
recuperar más del
70%,
70% de los residuos, y tienen
and
1.822
they have
municipios que recuperan más del
1,822
80% de
municipalities
los
that
residuos, y
recover over
4 que
80%,
recuperan más del 90% de
and
los residuos.
174
Tienen más de
above
100 municipalidades que
90%.
generan,
There are over
más
100
de 3.000 municipalidades que
municipalities
generan
that
menos de 100
generate
kilogramos
less
de
than 100
fracción
kilograms
rechazo por
of
persona
rejects per
al año,
person a
y
year,
54 municipios que
and
generan menos de
54
30
municipalities
kilogramos de fracción
below
rechazo
30
por
kilograms
persona al
per
año. Es
person
un
a
tremendo
year.
éxito, entonces, que
Of
nos
course,
muestra
this
hacia
is
dónde tenemos
very
que
successful and it
apuntar en
shows
realidad.
our
Una cuestión
goal.
clave es la
This is a
recolección
key
de los residuos
area in
orgánicos,
bio waste,
que por un lado son un gran porcentaje
and of course,
de lo que hoy en día se retira, ¿cierto?
we
Y que
need
va a
to point
disposición
out
final,
that this
es más de la
includes
mitad por
an
lo general,
important
y
percentage,
en algunos lugares es más
and
del
in some
60%
places
incluso.
it
Y
represents
también al
over
mantener estos residuos
60%.
separados,
when this is maintained, it's easier to manage the waste, the dry waste. There's Ljubljana example is the first capital city in Europe that is declared with the goal to reach zero waste. And you can see recycling rates in the Eurostat study. And you can see the countries that have increased their recycling areas like Italy, Slovenia, and you can see the first zero waste city. And of course, you can see that the countries that are in the opposite directions are the ones that use incineration. In this slide, you can see Salasia in Romania that recovered 3% and 60% in less than 2 months. The implementation of a zero waste program. You can see how rejects are reviewed. Rossano Arcolini, I think, is right there on the floor, looking at the different rejects. Also, promotion of new business models, which target is zero waste, like the production of reusable diapers that can be done at a local scale. In Europe, there are businesses that are being applied in the sense that use the systems and, of course, generate jobs. And these are the rejects to show the products that are most present and the manufacturers of these products to be redesigned. And this is very important to bear in mind in these strategies as well. As you can see in this slide, Contarina, an Italian region, has achieved over 85% of waste with a local company that was created with a zero waste program in this region. Here you can see the costs is reduced with a zero waste management. In the green line, excuse me, 1 minute. Thank you. The green line shows how you can see the waste management cost is lower in those municipalities that select the recycling materials, and the red one is the average. Of course, the cost is much higher in which zero waste programs are not implemented. And of course, the main takeaways are as follows. The separate collection door to door is very important. It's very helpful in terms of zero waste management, and of course, separate collection of organic waste and recycling waste is the easiest way to implement it, and it's very evident as well. And of course, it has a very important impact, and also reuse programs are paramount in the long term. The results are not in the short term, but of course they are very important to be developed. Also, jobs are created in this sense when these are implemented. And of course, it saves public money, and then we do have many benefits with these strategies, actual benefits, economic and social benefits, as well as benefits that we can achieve in any part of the world. So That is the goal we need to reach, and that is the contrary to incineration. Thank you.
Excelente presentación, Ali. Creo que
Excellent
muy buenas ideas para todos empezar
presentation,
a luchar en
Ale.
contra de esta parte de la
Very good
incineración.
ideas to start
Por
fighting
último,
against this kind
tenemos
of
a nuestra
incineration.
ponente, Débora,
Finally, we
la
have
presenté
Deborah.
anteriormente.
I've
Ella nos
already
va a hablar sobre
introduced
esta
her.
nota
She's going to
técnica sobre la
talk
incineración
about
en Brasil, que creo que nos
incineration
ayudará a cerrar con este caso
in Brazil that will
importante.
help
Débora,
us
si estás por
wrap
ahí,
up
te paso la palabra.
for today. Deborah, if you're there.
Fazer uma nova tentativa. Peço desculpa.
Let's
Estão ouvindo
try
agora bem?
again.
Sim.
Now, can you hear me
Vou
okay?
compartilhar aqui. Espero que agora dê certo.
I'm going to
Obrigada.
share my screen. I hope everything works well now.
Já está compartilhando com vocês?
Sí, solo falta
Can
verla
you
grande.
see my screen? Yes.
Tá, vou ver se vai agora. Agora sim?
Sim.
Is
Bom.
that better?
Boa tarde, então. Hoje eu
Good
estou
afternoon.
representando o professor Carlos, que não pôde
I'm
comparecer porque ele está em outra
representing
apresentação.
Professor Carlos, who was
Estou
unable to
representando também meu colega
attend
de pesquisa,
because
Geni
he's at
Cap.
another meeting. He's my,
Ambos
and I'm
são
also
do Núcleo de
representing
Caracterização
my
de
research
Materiais,
colleague,
no CIMAC, da Unicinos, né?
Mr.
Então, nós vamos
Kapler.
apresentar um pouquinho do que nós
They
estamos fazendo aqui.
both carry out
Nós viemos
investigations at
construindo desde
Unicinos,
o ano
and we're going to
passado
show what we're doing.
uma nota técnica
Since last year,
sobre a
we
incineração de resíduos
started
sólidos. Ela é em
writing
conjunto
a
com a
technical
Aliança
note on the
Resíduo Zero
incineration of
e
solid
com o apoio
waste that we do
financeiro da
together
Gaia.
with the Zero
E
Waste
esse
Alliance
documento,
and
ele
with the
apresenta
financial
elementos,
support
então,
from
que
Gaia.
contribuem
This
para o
document includes
entendimento
elements
e
that
tomada de decisão
contribute
sobre a
to
incineração dos resíduos sólidos
understanding and making
urbanos.
decisions
E
on
essas considerações
incineration.
expostas nesse documento, eles
And
resultam da
those
pesquisa, então,
considerations
de
that we
diversas
spell
bases de
out in
dados,
this
então são
document
bases de dados
arise
científicos,
from
e também da
investigations based
experiência
on many
multidisciplinar da nossa
scientific
equipe do NUCMAT.
databases and from the
Esse projeto, então, ele
multidisciplinary
faz parte de
experience of our
acompanhamento
team. This
realizado
project
pelo
is
NUCMAT
part of the
sobre o
follow-up
tema incineração de resíduos
carried
sólidos
out
urbanos,
by NUCMAT
considerando o
on the
avanço das propostas de
incineration of
leis,
solid
na Câmara dos
municipal
Deputados,
waste.
nos leilões de energia,
There's
na
a
Política Nacional dos
bill
Resíduos
in the House of
Sólidos, no Plano
Representatives on
Nacional de Resíduos
energy,
Sólidos,
on
o
national
PLANARES,
policies for solid
o
waste.
Plano
There's
Decenal de
also
Expansão de
a
Energia de
solid
2031,
waste plan,
além também
another
da
10-year energy
atuação de mais
plan
de
until
200
the year
movimentos contrários aqui no Brasil à
2031.
incineração em diversos estados
And
brasileiros, que são distribuídos, em
well,
diversos
there
estados
are many
brasileiros.
movements against
Então, o
incineration in
objetivo
several
dessa nota
states in
técnica
Brazil.
é apresentar
So the
uma
purpose
análise de
of
forma
this
acadêmica, com
technical
base
document
científica,
is
sobre os
to carry
aspectos
out
mais
an
relevantes
academic
sobre a
analysis
incineração
based
de
on
resíduos
evidence
sólidos urbanos,
as to the
Então, como eu
most
tinha falado
relevant
anteriormente, fundamentada na
impacts
literatura,
of the incineration
que nós
of
levamos em
solid
consideração,
municipal
então,
waste.
nessa nota técnica
What
aqui. À
have
esquerda
we
tem um
borne
modelo,
in
então
mind
ela
for
vem
this
sendo elaborada.
report?
Nesse momento ela está com a
This
Gaia,
is
para fazer
how
algumas revisões.
we
Que nós consideramos,
drafted the
então, quais foram os
report.
impactos,
It's now at Gaia so
Os
that they
impactos
review it.
negativos ao meio
And
ambiente,
we
que já
considered the
foram
negative
amplamente
impacts on the
falados aqui
environment.
nos outros palestrantes, né?
These things have
Que a
been
contaminação,
mentioned
então, não se
by
restringe
the
somente
other
ao ar, como foi
panelists.
explicado
I mean,
pelos biomarcadores,
and
né?
this
Foi
has to do with the
diagnosticado e
fact
indicado
that
pelos biomarcadores, então ela
pollution
pode estar
is not only
no
limited to
ar, nas
the
plantas, na
air,
água e no solo, pela liberação dos
and
poluentes, como dioxinas e
it's
furanos
in the
durante a incineração.
air, in plants,
Nós
in
consideramos também
soil.
os impactos negativos à saúde
We
humana,
also
que não
considered the
se
negative
restringe somente ao
impacts
meio
on
ambiente,
human
que
health
a transferência
because this
desses
is not
poluentes
only
ao longo do
limited to the
caminho,
environment.
e sendo que as
These
principais fontes
pollutants
para a
are
saúde humana
transferred
é dos
along
alimentos
the way.
gordurosos de origem
So
animal, sendo que mais de
this
90%
also
do ingresso
affects
dessas
human
dioxinas e
health,
furanos para a
and
população em
over
geral é
90% of the
pelos alimentos
toxins
gordurosos
and
de origem
furans
animal.
come from
Levamos em consideração também nessa nota
animal
técnica os
origin
impactos
fat.
negativos à sociedade, né?
we
nós
also
vemos que as
bore in
unidades de
mind the
recuperação
negative
energética,
impacts on
elas
society.
elas são grandes e
The
automatizadas,
energy
então
recovery
elas geram
units
poucos
are
empregos.
huge
Ao
and
contrário, então, das
automated and
cooperativas, né, que
generate
geram um
very
grande
few
número de
jobs,
empregos de forma direta,
unlike what
fora
happens with
4
the
vezes mais de
co-ops
forma indireta.
that create many
E a
jobs,
sociedade
4
também ela é
times more
beneficiada pelas cooperativas
indirectly than
através do desvio de
directly.
resíduos sólidos urbanos,
Then
dos aterros,
there's
da
the
logística
society
reversa, da redução da
benefits
extração
from the
desses minerais
co-ops
do
because of
solo
the
e também
deviation
pela melhor
of
qualidade do solo, da água e
solid
do ar.
municipal waste.
E ainda levamos em consideração
And
os impactos
also,
negativos à nossa
we
matriz
have
energética,
borne in
porque o
mind the
Brasil ele não
negative
tem
impacts on
dificuldade
the
para
energy
gerar energia,
matrix
né? Foi
because
tanto um
Brazil
registro que em 2024
doesn't have
foi a
any
maior
issues with
expansão
electricity generation. In
energética desde o início da
2024,
história de medição, desde
we
1997,
experienced the
contando um
greatest
acréscimo de
energy expansion in our
10.853
history, or
megawatts. Então,
more so since 1997,
incluir
with an
na
increase of
matriz energética a incineração traria
10,800
impactos negativos,
megawatts,
porque ela
including
tem maior custo de
pollution in the
investimento,
energy matrix would bring
maior
about a
custo
negative impact
operacional
because
e
it
também um maior
entails a
custo no
higher
monitoramento
investment and
desses poluentes,
operational
como já foi
cost,
dito
and also
anteriormente
higher
pelos outros
cost for
palestrantes.
monitoring
E o que nós
pollutants,
fizemos então?
as already
Nós
mentioned
fizemos
by the other panelists. What did we do then?
dentro dessa nota técnica, nós fizemos uma parte de
Within
comparação,
this
né? Então, nós
technical
comparamos
document,
nós fizemos
we
uma
have
tabela, né,
compared
como anexo dessa nota
in
técnica,
a
e ela compara
table,
todas
in an
as
annex to the
tecnologias de
technical
conversão
document, and we
termoquímicas que vêm
compared
sendo empregadas atualmente.
uh,
Então, para
thermal
nós, nós
and
entendemos a parte
chemical
de pesquisa
conversion
que a
technology that are
incineração ela é uma
technologies
forma
that are
de
currently being
redução de massa
used.
e volume. Ela é
Incineration
uma
is
espécie
a
de
way of
destruição dos
reducing
resíduos.
mass and volume.
Ela ocorre em fornos
It's
específicos,
it's a
como já foi falado
form of
anteriormente pelos outros,
destroying
né,
waste.
em fornos
In
rotativos de
other
brilha móvel.
specific
E a eficiência dela comparada às outras tecnologias é muito baixa,
reports,
né? 20%.
we
E
compared
aproximadamente
this
20%,
with
né?
other
Isso
sources of
foi
energy,
levantado através de
and the
pesquisas, né?
difference is only
E ela
about
pode gerar,
20%.
assim como os outros poluentes e
This was
emissões das
obtained
outras
through
tecnologias, a
research
diferença de
work,
dioxinas e furanos, né?
and
Então,
there
isso
are
nós levamos
other
cada uma, a comparação de cada uma dessas
technologies
tecnologias que
from
vêm
which we
sendo
analyze
utilizadas
toxins,
em
and
outros países também,
um,
e fizemos em forma de
we took
anexo
a look
dessa
at the
nota
use of
técnica
technologies
e
in other
colocamos um
countries
comparativo.
too, that we
Aqui a gente
included
fez um
in
comparativo
the
também com a
annexes to the
pirólise, né?
technical document. We also compared
Que é a que
incineration
produz
with
o biocarvão, o
pyrolysis.
que a pirólise é na ausência de oxigênio controlado.
I apologize, but
Fizemos um
it's a bit
comparativo
choppy
também
sometimes.
com processamento, que já foi
We
falado anteriormente também.
compared
E
it
no
to
final
co-processing that's
dessa nota
already
técnica, nós
been
fizemos também
mentioned,
uma
and
comparação com as
also
tecnologias de
we
conversão biológica,
compared
a compostagem e a
composting
biodigestão, né? Então, a
and
compostagem, tratamento de resíduos
biodigestion.
orgânicos, né? Uma fonte de tratamento de resíduos orgânicos,
Composting is
a
used to
biodigestão
treat
também.
organic waste, and biodigestion too. She's
E no final
frozen, I'm afraid.
de toda a nota técnica,
No.
além do que o tema de resíduos sólidos urbanos, ele
From
vai
the
além das propostas e tecnologias de final de tubo, né? Nas quais
this
elas buscam
technical
solucionar um
document,
problema
we've gone
existente.
beyond the
Então, há uma
technologies
necessidade
trying to
emergente
solve
na mudança
an
de
existing
paradigmas no nosso
problem.
país,
It's an emerging
colocando em
need
prática a
that
ordem
we
de
have to
prioridade
change the paradigm in
na
our
gestão e
country,
gerenciamento dos resíduos
uh,
sólidos, e que já vem sendo adotado em outros
prioritizing
países.
the
De forma bem
treatment of
sucinta,
solid
é isso,
municipal
né? Acho que os
waste
outros
using
palestrantes já falaram
technologies that are
bastante.
already being adopted by other countries. I
Obrigada,
tried to
Débora.
be as
Muchas
brief as
gracias.
possible. Thank you so
Eh,
much, Deborah.
bueno, creo que tuvimos varios casos muy
I
interesantes,
think we've
incluyendo este
heard
último de
very
Brasil, en
interesting
diferentes países de
cases, including
Latinoamérica y
this
Europa.
last one in
Esperamos
Brazil,
este webinar haya
others in Latin
sido de
America and
gran
Europe.
interés para
Hopefully,
todas y todos
this
ustedes.
webinar was
Queremos
of
hacer
great
un
interest to
especial
all of you.
agradecimiento
We want
a
to very
nuestros y nuestros
especially thank
intérpretes, que sin ustedes
our
no podríamos
interpreters.
estar
Without you
escuchando este
people,
webinar en
we
todos
couldn't
los
be
idiomas que lo
hearing
pudimos
this
escuchar
webinar in all these three languages, and also thank participants and speakers. The webinar is being recorded, so it will be available on the Gaia network soon. Thank you all. Those questions that remained unanswered, we will be keeping them to be able to answer them later. Thank you so much.
Gracias a todas y todos.
Muchas gracias.
We thank